Welcome to Greg's Real Revival. Today we will be servicing a Shimano Ultegra C3000. This is a little different than some spinning reels. It's got a worm guide system in it versus just the regular main gear and pinion gear. Main gear and oscillating gear. So we'll get this apart and get it serviced and see how we do. Trying to get one last video in. I'm having rotator cuff surgery here in a couple days, and this will be the reel I'm using once I get done, so we might as well get it serviced and get it ready for my return to the water. Alright, let's see if I can get this out here. Alright, goodness. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to service the drag washer. There's multi drag washers in here, so the first thing we need to do is take out this little four-sided clip. Set that right there. And there's a bell washer right there. The bell side goes facing up. Take that out. Nothing underneath there. Now we'll start with our drag washer. There's your first drag washer there. There is what they call a keyed washer. I'm sorry, that's your eared washer. You'll see those little ears on each side of there. Another drag washer. This is a keyed washer. You see the center of that is square versus round. Then we have one more drag washer in here. And that's it. Alright, to service this, here's what we need to do. The first thing we're going to do is just kind of wipe the old drag grease off those drag washers. There's a little bit of grease on these as well. We need to get that off. That one off. This one off. And then the cap. Okay. What we will also do is we're just going to wipe out the inside of here. It's really, really clean. So we're going to wipe that out with a paper towel and get all that old grease out of there. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to take some Cowles drag washer grease, and we're going to start with this one. It's the last one that came out. Whoa. Just get a little bit of that on there, and then we're just going to spread that around to the entire washer. It doesn't really need a whole lot. Just put a light coating on there. Okay? So we got that one done. We're going to set it back down in there. Then we're going to put this keyed washer in. Take this next drag washer here. Put a little bit of drag washer grease on that. Set that in there. Then on the outside ring, you'll see there's a little slot there and a little slot there. We're going to take this eared washer, and these little tabs here are going to go in those little slots. Alright, so that's sitting right in there how it should. Take our last drag washer here. little bit of drag washer grease on that. Make sure we have that in there. We're going to set that one on top right there. We're going to set the bell washer on top of that again with the dome side up. Okay, so we've got that in there. Next thing we have to do, you probably can't see it, maybe you can. There's a little slot right on the very top of all those. That's where this goes. Okay, so that slot is going to hold this clip in there. So let's start here. Try to put the back of that in there. And then that's how it fits in there. Everything is right in there where it needs to be. So that's ready to put back on once we're done with the rest of the reel. All right. Start with the main part of the reel here. Just going to pull this off here. Set that to the side. Pull that off. Pull that off. And then we have this little cover here. Pull that off as well. Just take your time doing this. Nothing honestly in these reels is super difficult. It's more of a matter of just taking pictures, taking a video, so you can see how they go back together. Okay. Also online you can go to like reelschematics.com, and they have the majority of schematics for most reels. All right, this cover also has the raised or the bell side up, so remember that. Now we have the screw that holds the rotor on. I'm sorry, the nut that holds the rotor on. This is a reverse threaded, so I'm going to turn it to the right and it's actually going to loosen it. It actually says unscrew right there and has an arrow pointing that way, so it makes it easier on us. Okay. All right. There it is. Absolutely flawless on the inside there. There's nothing really to mess with. All right, we'll set that right there. Now, before we get into the rest of this, let's take this handle and nut off. All right, so you can see there's your inside of your reel there. Okay. Let's go and take this anti-reverse off. Now you'll take this one, and this one off. That small one, you're going to leave right there. Okay, no reason to mess with it. I'm going to kind of lay these in the same position that I take them out in. That way when I'm putting it back together, it's pretty easy. There. All right, again, so when you're looking at this with the reel seats towards you, that little screw there is going to be on the right. That does not come out. Okay. Now we're just going to lift this off. All right. So here, this is your little collar. You'll see there's kind of a wide side here and a skinny side here. The skinny side goes down, so we're going to set that right there like that. And then we should be able to pull the pinion gear and the Looks like there might be a washer on there, but we should be able to pull the pinion gear and the bearing out right now. Okay, you'll see right here, this just came out. That's just a little O-ring that goes right in there. So there's your pinion gear and your bearing. Now this will not come out right now, okay? What will come out is this little ramp right here. Just be careful with that. Obviously, we don't want to break anything. Tell you what, let me take this vibration washer off here real quick. There's that. All right, tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna leave that alone right now. Let's take these screws out here, and then I'm pretty sure once we get these out that I can get that piece out. I think it's held in. There's a piece that goes right here when you put those two halves together, the two halves of the case. So I think we need to get these out. I'm gonna have to change screwdriver bits real quickly. We'll see which one it takes here. A little bit big. All right, that is a T7 bit right there. That's going to come out. I was not a fan of these T heads when I first started working on these reels, but I am a huge fan of them right now. I think you get a better grip and there's less chance of stripping something when you use these. So, have to take out this little cover here. That is a T5 right there, and it's a little bitty. What I'll normally do is I will take this and set it right to the side, right next to this, and we know where it goes. All right, there's just a regular screw right there. So we'll change back bits real quick and we will be good to go. That goes to the bottom. All right, so we've got everything unhooked here. Let's take this little looks like it's this side here that comes off. Oh, all right, look here. Let's see something. All right, I should be able to get this off already. Sometimes you just kind of have to work at it. Don't get in a hurry, it'll come. Let's go ahead and try taking this out here. That might help us. You'll notice the position of that. The hole goes right in the center of the reel there. Look at here. This might be, gotta be careful with them. All right, there is actually a little screw right there that I didn't see. I got the one on the bottom. I didn't get this one right here. So that is the one that's holding it in. And that's the reason you have to be careful. If you miss something like that, it's not really that big of a deal, but if you are prying and beating on that case, you can do some real damage. Real damage to that you don't want to do. Right on that side. Okay, now I bet you this comes right apart. Famous last words, right? All right. So there is the little ramp that fell out because it's held in through a little piece that goes right there. All right. So here's your main gear. You'll notice there is a washer on there. We'll look at that a little bit closer. There might be one underneath there, so we're just going to set that to the side right now. Now you'll notice this is different than your standard, what I would consider your standard spinning reels. Instead of having the oscillating gear in the main gear, it's got this worm drive gear in the main gear. Okay, so we'll show you how to get all that apart. And then we'll take it apart and then we'll get it all put back together. Let's start on this side real quick. Your main gear just comes out. All right, so I'm going to leave that on there for right now. When I get to cleaning that and get all that grease out from underneath there, that's going to come right off, and I'll let you know. I'll show you that when we put it back together. Next thing is that bearing. We're just going to push that out. And there you go. There's the inside of that case, nothing in there. So that is that side of the reel. All right, now the interesting side. First thing we've got to start with is we got to start with that little screw there. It's going to come off. Then that little piece right there, I believe that is the pole. That is just the cover to it. Oh, that fell out from underneath there. Alright, so that goes up and down just like that. This little piece here should come out. It'll slide down through the bottom. All right, first of all, let's go ahead and just slide this out real quick. And wipe it off. That is our pawl. You see that little pawl right there? That is just like on your bait caster. That pawl is going to mesh with that worm gear, and that's going to help your main shaft right up and down. All right. So we have all that done. All right. How do we get this main shaft out? I believe if I get this centered here, it should slide out down through the bottom. All right, that little wheel is going to come out right there, that little gear. First, we're going to get this to come down. That gear is going to come out first, on top of there. Now this little gear is held in by that little metal piece there. So I'm going to see if I can maybe get that to come out. I do have a pair of pliers, so we'll just see if we can get that out right here. Yep. That comes out. And you'll see the bigger side of it is facing up. So we'll remember that when we put it back together. And then we can just pull that right out. All right, there you have it. We've got all that out in there. The last thing we have is we gotta get this bearing out. So we'll go from the outside again. And we'll push that out. All right, so that'll go there. We're gonna get everything cleaned up real quick, and then we will get this put back together. All right, welcome back. You can see we got everything cleaned up here. As we saw earlier, this reel is a decent amount different than just your regular reels because it's got the worm gear system in it. So we're gonna start off by putting that worm gear back in. Okay. You may be able to see right there, there's that little white plastic bushing. I just got that back in there after a while. If it comes out, just get something like a pick or something that you can set down in there and kind of move it around until it fits back in there. There's a small open side to it right there which faces out, so maybe that'll help you. But that took a while, so I'm not going to take that back out. Okay? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in, this is the worm idler gear right here. And that's going to basically sit in that little slot right there. Okay. So the worm gear is going to feed up into there. So let me track down my worm gear. Here's my worm gear. You'll see it's got a little bushing on the bottom of it. So we're just gonna, this little piece here is gonna go up into that bushing. So we'll put a tiny bit of, we just put a little bit of grease on the gear part right here. For my, when I service the, oh, there that goes. When I service the bait casting reels, I will just use oil on this because it's exposed. So it's exposed to the elements, exposed to dust and all that, and I think it just keeps it cleaner and nicer if you do that. Okay, so again, this little bushing goes right here. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to put it right up into that hole. This point is going to go through that gear that just rolled out of the way. So that just sets right in there. And then when I get this worm gear in there, then I can worry about getting everything centered. Alright, so you can see that's part way up in there. Move this around until it gets in the little hole at the top. And again, nothing really difficult, it's just more of having the patience to get that in there. Nice. And this sometimes is just the reality of real repair. Sometimes it just takes a while, but If you'll just be patient and not get frustrated. You will definitely get it where you need it. I think if I can just get this gear seated on there, and then I can work a little bit more at getting in the Alright, there we go. It's on there. It took a little while, but it's right there. Alright, I've got a lot of that grease on my fingers now, so I am going to put a little bit more grease on this gear. Alright, I feel pretty decent about that. Now let's get the other gear in there. This gear goes in the top here. It's hard to see, but there's a cutout place right back in there. And if you set that gear right down there, and then we take this piece and go through the top. We can get that gear. Right in there where it goes. Alright, so that's going to hold that in there. Alright, so now we probably got the hardest part of the reel put together right there. Those two gears mess with each other. They are nylon, so they do not need to have do not need to have extra lubrication on them. Now what we're going to do, we're going to put this on the bottom here, and that's going to hold it all together so it doesn't keep falling out on us. There. Put that big screw right there. Alright, so we're good on that. Got a good deal of grease on the, good bit of grease on there like it was when we got it out there. And again, as you can tell, it's all working how it should. All right, next thing I'm going to do before I get too far into this is, here's all my bearings that came out. And one little bitty one here. I need to get these oiled. What I've had these sitting in is acetone, and all I do is I'm just going to put a little bit of oil on the outside of all of these. Set that to the side. The bigger ones, I'm just going to take my grease brush, kind of work that oil in there a little bit. That one, that's for our pinion gear. This is our little bitty one that goes underneath the pinion gear. And this one goes in the side case that we just put together. Alright. So I'm going to attempt to set that one in there. Probably should have done that a few minutes ago, but got kind of focused on the pinion gear or got kind of focused on the pinion gear and I may have to take this gear, the pinion gear, out first, or the worm gear, but I would sure like to not have to do that if I don't have to. Alright, I'm going to take the hit and go ahead and just take this off because I don't want to do any damage to the bearing, and I sure don't want to do any damage to the worm gear. So as much as it pains me to have to possibly go through this again, I think it's what we need to do to make sure we do things the right way and don't screw something up. All right. All right, there it is. That's all it took. Snap that baby right in there. Now we're going to go through this one more time. Seems to be easier when that bushing is on there. just slid in there. I could feel it slide in. So there's that. Now we're good to go finally. And same thing for you guys at home. If you're doing something and it just doesn't work out quite right, not a big deal. Just go back through what you were doing. Undo it and redo it the right way. All right, there we go. Thank goodness. Again, look at that, and it's rolling real nicely there, so we're good to go. Okay. I think what we're going to do now is let's put the pinion gear on. To do that, we're just going to put some grease on it. All right, not tons. Then, okay. Here's something we did not see when we took it apart. There's a little bitty brass washer that goes on the bottom of that pinion gear right there. And there's a little bitty bearing that goes on the bottom of it also. That bearing is going to sit in that hole right there. Okay. Then we have the big bearing that goes on top of it. So we're going to put that in there. And then we'll just set all of this in here. All right, there it is. As you can see, everything's turning really, really nicely right now. And you'll see that nylon gear is getting some grease off that pinion gear, so that's going to automatically get greased. So we've got this in here. Next thing we need to do is go about putting the main gear in there. I think we can do the main gear and then we can slide the pinion gear in after that and get that all situated. So that's what we're going to try. All right, main gear. Try to get a little bit of grease on all the teeth, but don't just load it down with grease. It's not necessary. Okay. When we took it apart, remember there were a couple washers there. There were two small brass washers, and those are going to go. There's one of them. Those are going to go right there. And then we're just going to set that down in there. All right, so we're good to go. And we turn the main gear, and I'm not sure if you can see it, but everything is turning really nice and smoothly. Real quick, we'll put this last bearing in the side case right there, and that snaps down. Okay, so this is kind of a little bit different, just simply because it's just different than most spinning reels. With your gear, I'm sorry, not your gear, but with your main shaft, that's going to eventually slide right up. We may not be able to do that quite yet. Tell you what I'm going to do. All I'm doing is I'm just going to slide out that pinion gear. Okay, so that's going to slide up in here. slide just like this to keep that in there. There's going to be this little pin, and it slides right through there. Okay. Now, what do we need in here? We need our what do you call that? Pin worm gear, and gosh, I can't remember the name of that. But that is going to sit right in here, and that's going to mesh with those teeth there and cause this to go up and down. Okay, we're just going to put that right there. We're going to slide our pinion gear down in. And then you'll see, just like any other spinning reel, now when I turn that, everything goes up and down. Okay? So now that we have that done, this might be a little challenging, but I think we can do it. With that done, we're going to have to set that right on there, and we're going to have to see if we can get this. No, good. That makes it easy. That main gear comes right out of there. Sometimes you cannot take that out of there. With the main shaft in. Alright, so we're going to put that right there. You'll notice there's a little notch in it, and that's where that little stud goes. Then we have this little bitty piece here, this little bitty screw. Uh-oh. Set that right there. Try that screw one more time. Alright, see if we can get this to go. Certainly can. Awesome. Alright, so as we did earlier, you see, that works just like it should. Now we're going to set this main gear back in here. There we go. That's meshed with everything as well. Okay. Very nice. Alright, so let's look and make sure we've got everything inside right now. Next thing we're going to do, okay, when you read about this reel, it talks about it being not 100% waterproof, but it's got like a water preparation system to keep water out. And what they do to help that is they put just a tiny bit of grease all the way around here. So I've got my grease brush, and I'm just going to put just a little bit of grease around there like they say. And that will just help keep any water out of it. Okay. Now, you remember we had this little ramp that we could not get off at first, and that's because That fits right in here. Then when you slide the other part on, it's going to slide right there. Okay. All right, so we've got it back together. First thing, let's go ahead and put some of these case screws in, and then we can worry about putting more of the external stuff on. This reel is a little, like I said, a little more difficult than your standard bait casting reel. I'm sorry, your spinning reel. But just take your time, grab you a good schematic. I always encourage you, if you buy a reel, to keep the box. The box will have a schematic in it, and that will help you if you need to service your reel. Change bits real quick. Put in. And we'll get this last one put in here. Alright, this is our anti-vibration ring. We're going to put this on next. It just goes on the very bottom there. Alright, got that on all the way down around like it should be. Next thing we have is this small little rubber ring that goes right there. You'll see on the bottom of that, there's a little cutout part that's going to go right on that little raised part right there. So if you lose track of it, you'll know. ring's going to be the death of it, but I'm sure going to try to get on there where it should be. Tell you what, let's try this. See if I can get this on the inside of here. Now, is this 100% necessary? I don't know, but I would say it's a rubber ring and it's going to help keep any extra water out, so it's going to go back in the way I found it. And if that takes me just a little bit extra time, I'm okay with that. Alright. Again, that little opening goes over that little nub over there. There we go, look at there. This just goes on top here, so I'm not really worried about it at this point. Let's get one of these screws in here. First thing we have to do though, here, put that back on top. Alright, now we'll see if we have all these lined up where they need to go. Feels like we do. Yep. Alright. Look what I did, goodness gracious. Alright. Alright, that goes down right there. We go. Then we got this going down next. Alright, got that in. Now we need to put our alright folks, we're going to have to go back a little bit. I'm going to pause real quick. All I got to do is take this off and put this back down here because I don't believe it's going to go on top of that. And I'll be back just a second. All right, we're back. We've got it all taken apart and put back together. Next thing we have to put on is this shield here. That'll guard, keep all these pins in here, keep everything where it needs to go. Now that goes there, and then there's the one little screw that goes right here to hold it on. Alright, got that done. Now let's put on the rotor. First thing is the rotor. Sit on here, spin super freely. Next thing we're going to put on is the nut. Remember, this is reverse threaded, so when you think you're unscrewing it, actually you'll be tightening it, so just be careful. Okay. Got that on, tighten that up just a little bit. Okay. Then we've got our cover. It goes over there. So I'll tighten that a little more to get it lined up there. Might even loosen it a little bit, let's see. There we go. Okay, so that's right where the holes are. Let's see if we got them in the right places here. All right, we do. Next thing we have is this little rubber washer. It's got a little lip on it. The lip goes down and it's going to go in that little indented space there, and that's basically to keep water out also. Just another feature. So there's that. We have this right here. That. We're going to put on our spacers. All right. Next thing that goes on is our spool. So we got some drag on there. Now let's put the handle back on. Put our handle back on. Put this on right back over here. And that's it, your Shimano Ultegra C3000. So everything works great, reel spins extremely freely, so it's ready to go. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, ask them, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Y'all have a great day. Like and subscribe. If you have reels that you want to have serviced, please email me at gregsreelrevival@gmail.com, and I will get you taken care of. Thank you.